Thank you. Thank you, David, for inviting me and for the Studio Lava for hosting us tonight. I hope you're not too tired because I have 100 slides to go through. So I don't know how we're gonna do it, but yeah, let's get through it. So my name is Zuzana, as David already mentioned, and I come from Slovakia. And I moved to Amsterdam almost 11 years ago to study at the Rietveld Academy. And before coming here, I have just finished a bachelor degree in a small town in Czech Republic called Zlín. And the department where I studied was called Digital Design. And it was a very applied, kind of a commercial, practice-based bachelor's that I wasn't really happy with. And after hearing about Rietveld from a few people who went there on an exchange, I decided to apply. And I applied to graphic design directly, but I was accepted to the basic year, which at the beginning felt like a little bit of a setback. But looking back at it, I think it was a really great thing that happened, as I met a lot of amazing people who went on to study different departments and tried a lot of things that I don't think I would try if I would go directly to study at the graphic design. So also what you're looking at is a video I made 11 years ago in a basic year in an assignment. Oh yeah, the school in Czech Republic is on the left, just so you can imagine how it looked like. So I would like to start by going back to summer of 2018 and at the time of my graduation and show you a little excerpt from my graduation work that I've made together in collaboration with Beatrice Conefrey and Fabian Reichel.
Where is she? Empty stage, no lights, loud crowd.
Oh dear, there's a lot of you.
Nervous laugh. The introducer stands out from the dark and appears on the stage. No slides. Silence. Respect.
Okay, everyone is here. Good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you all for coming to this first hosted lecture on this busy graduation show day. This talk is going to repeat 2 times each day of the show, so if you find yourself having any questions, you can always come back.
So what you've seen was an excerpt from my graduation work, as I mentioned previously, that's called Lost Table Lecture, and it was done together with my classmate Beatrice Conefrey, who's there on the image as well, and a friend Fabian Reichel, who composed the music for us. And it was, the lecture that we've made was an investigation into live graphic design lectures, and it was made by collecting and rearranging excerpts from existing lectures and reshuffling them into creating new narratives. We brought together, I think, excerpts from more than 30 different lectures to create somehow like a discourse on what we thought was relevant at that moment of us graduating, which was mostly like the undefinition or a broad definition of graphic design, and this moment of like graduating and not being a student anymore, but also don't feel like being a graphic designer yet. So we did perform it 2 times each day of the graduation show that lasted 5 days. So it was a lot of repetition. This is how the auditorium looked like. So we also printed a leaflet that had 8 pages that basically contained the entire script of the lecture. So you could take it with you as like a set of notes to keep after, or you could follow it while we were performing. I'm gonna play one more excerpt.
Posters, books, CD covers, logotypes, Facebook, banners, newsletters, custom typeface, chills typography, casual calligraphy, shapes, circles, triangles, squares, invitations, Facebook, Instagram, funny t-shirts, flyers, zines, fanzines, magazines, editorials, wallpaper, billboard, binding paper, 60 milligram paper, Riso, offset, CMYK, RGB, JPEG, TIFF, PNG, GIF, sticker, flyer, video promotion, music attempts, designers' rugs, awkward performances, words, unusual format, standard, self-publishing, book fairs, drinking, caps, socks, embroidery, silkscreen, Helping friends, helping others for free, finally paid, cash cow, piggy bank, glues. Perfect binding, Japanese binding, bitmap, hardcover, softcover, no cover, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, Acrobat Updater, Home Office, Freelancer, Intern Resident Funding Founding Tax Refund, 300 DPI, 72 DPI, A6, A5, A4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
After the graduation show, we also recorded the lecture in a sound studio, so you can listen to it on the SoundCloud in its entirety if you want to. 2 months after graduating from the school, I was very lucky and almost by a complete coincidence found a studio space that was large enough that I would be able to share it with several people. And I went to see it, and I think I accepted it 10 minutes after I went to see it and started texting several of my classmates to see if they would be interested to join. And everyone who I asked immediately said yes. So even though we graduated, we somehow were able to keep the part of the school atmosphere with us also in the studio space. And looking back at this moment, I think it was an important experience as we were able to give feedback to each other or start collaborating and cook lunches together. And we also had a lot of ideas of things we wanted to initiate together. And even though most of them failed, I think the fact that we were sharing our everydays, being in the similar situation, just recently graduated, was very important. I moved to another studio space a year ago, but I'm happy that we managed to pass on the studio to another group of people who know each other from school, who are actually here, and Teres is there as well, which is amazing. So I've been working as a graphic designer since graduating in 2018, and I work mostly within the fields of art and culture. I mean, I would say almost 100%. And first project I want to talk about is the first commission I ever got when I was graduating from the Rietveld, which is an identity for a warehouse. And I was approached by Elisa van Jolen, who was my teacher in the basic year, to do this. To give you a little bit of context, so Warehouse is an Amsterdam-based fashion platform that aims to create space for critical and alternative approaches to fashion. And it was founded by Elisa van Jolen, as I mentioned previously, Femke de Vries and Hanka van der Voet, 3 practitioners operating in the fields of writing, fashion, research, art, etc. And Warehouse does a lot of activities in terms of like publishing, exhibition projects, events. And I designed the whole identity, or like the beginning of it, in text edit. And I had this idea to create the logo that's going to be composed of these blocks or boxes, as I imagine a warehouse is, and basically accommodate the content inside of it. And I thought it was almost like a little bit of an analog way of doing this kind of, I don't know, stretching and stuff. But you can see basically how it worked. So I had the logo and I was just typing in it and putting the content and creating compositions like this that we later on used for various applications. I'm gonna, for example, on the website, the logo is also moving as you scroll down. So this idea, it's continuing in other applications. I'm gonna quickly run through some more of them. We see some merch we've made, some shoelaces and stickers, more shoelaces, some wrapping papers. And recently they also opened a space in Amsterdam. So we've also made this design for their door. And my collaboration with Warehouse expanded over the years. And while being their in-house designer, I also got involved in several other projects that they were doing. And also I got the opportunity to start teaching. So I'm currently teaching at the Master of Critical Fashion Practices in Arnhem, and also doing a guest teaching right now at the fashion department of the Rietveld. So this is how the diagram looks like from today's perspective. So how it started and how is it now 7 years later. One of these projects is, for example, a project called the Magazine Reader that I was invited by Hanka and Femke to join in 2019. And this project revolves around the analysis of a mainstream high-end fashion magazines and its subsequent translation into a new zine. So each issue is a result of a workshop where participants are encouraged to engage with the content of the high-end fashion magazine and become active actors in the construct of fashion. So basically like cut the content and create different combinations or different findings and create contributions. This is the issues that I've made. So I was also, guiding the workshops and also collecting all the materials and assembling it together. And sometimes the contributions were more visual and sometimes they were with more extensive written reflections. It was depending on the length of the workshop. And my role in this workshop, I was also trying to give the insights for the participants in how to do self-publishing and how to make a publication themselves to basically dissolve the barrier that usually exists between the content producers and the manufacturers of the products. So the participants were involved in deciding like the sequence of the magazine as well, etc. Some more stills. And what we also always did is that we inserted a few pages from the original magazine inside of it. So you would find these random glossy pages coming out everywhere. And there is also a project that came out of working on this. So while I was going to the first workshop in Eindhoven, which was hosted by Onomatope, I was preparing to have these pages ready to insert them into the magazine readers. So I took the Harper's Bazaar we were working with, and I cut the spine and I folded all the pages together. And somehow I felt like it kind of created a nice magazine. So I showed it to Hanka and Femke on the train. So these are the photos from the train and me showing it to them. And somehow we had an idea, like maybe we should publish this as well. And we made an open call on Instagram and managed to collect several issues of old fashion magazines. And I've cut all of them into loose pages and arranged them into these new zines. And I kept the order of the pages, just removed the covers to basically also highlight how different fashion media is similar, actually. So this is how the final zines looked like. And then a few years after, while I was a student at the Werkplaats, I looked back at these magazines and I was thinking, like, why was I folding them always in the same direction? Now it makes sense that it came out of preparing for this magazine reader workshop. And then I just made a few more tryouts with different ways of folding and seeing what that can do to the content of the magazine. So some more examples. Oh yeah, I like how this one became like a very uncomfortable object, actually, which is nice in contrast to the fashion magazines that are usually supposed to be consumed very easily. And there is another project I have self-initiated that fits within this topic while I was a student at the Werkplaats, and it's a magazine that I called Left to Say, and it's a one-on-one remake of 2022 April's issue of Harper's Bazaar. And what I did was remove all the images and basically only kept the texts of the magazine. And I decided to also put everything in the same typeface to kind of blur the boundaries between the advertisement and the contents of the magazine. And it's quite interesting that you can still see what kind of pages you're looking at, although the images are not there, I think. Next to Warehouse, there's another project that has been spanning a few years that I want to talk about because I think it's quite important for me. And it's an identity for an Amsterdam-based institution called The Apple that I have been working on with Bardi Haliti, who's also here, since 2020. And I don't know if you're familiar with The Apple, but it's an institution that was founded in 1975 by Wis Smalls as a reaction to the lack of platforms and possibilities to show contemporary art practices like performance and conceptual art. And a lot of artists that are nowadays, considered big in conceptual art, actually started their careers at The Apple. So it's quite an important institution. And they have currently this threefold structure that combines an archive and a 30-year-old curatorial program and education initiatives that is now called Embedded Art. And we do everything for them since 2020. So we, of course, did the website. And yeah, you can imagine what the work entails. It's like all the brochures and posters and flyers and merch and signage and Instagram posts and publications. Basically anything that they need to have done, we do. I think this project has been very important mostly because we met a lot of people via working there or working with them. And we also got engaged in some projects also on a more editorial level. And it's just nice to have a work that's continuous somehow throughout years, and you're able to build on it, build on what you're doing. And the institution has an amazing archive that is often a source of inspiration for us. I wrote down actually here in my notes the amount of books and magazines that they have, but I think you can tell it's a lot. And for a few years we were working on developing a search engine for the archive, which is now online since a few years, where you can browse everything that they have in the archive, and then you can come to the Apple to visit it in person if you want. There's a lot of great things, so I would encourage you to dive there. You can click and spend hours if you want. And the archivist of the Apple, Nell Donkers, she's been working there for more than 20 years. And we really appreciate working with her because she has a very generous way of looking at archives and many ideas of how an archive can be activated through publishing websites or creating search parties and exhibitions. And she also had a vision of designing a van that would fit the archive because she wanted to tour the world and make it accessible to everyone. These are some examples of publications that they make in the archive that Bart is designing. And while I was working on this search engine by a complete accident, I stumbled upon a video recording of a work of Carolee Schneemann, who I didn't know before. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Carolee Schneemann's work, but she was an American visual artist known for her multimedia works about body, narrative, sexuality, and gender. And the work I found in the archive was called ABC, We Print Anything in the Cards. And Carolee presented this work at the Apple in June 1977. You can see the photograph on the left is from the presentation. There's also a video recording of it. And that presentation comprised of her reading 156 color-coded cards that had images on one side and text on the other side. Here you see basically a legend to how the cards were color-coded. So blue were quotes from the three main characters, A, B, and C. Pink were quotes from friends, and yellow were snippets from dreams and diaries. And the whole text was documenting the emotional chaos of two tangled relationships, as well as some reflections on life. And I'm gonna run through a few of them so you can read them on your own speed. So when I found this work, you know, this feeling that you have sometimes when you find something and you're like, how come I didn't know this before? Or how come no one I asked about it knows it. So I was really into sharing it with people. So when I was at the Werkplaats, I decided to make a facsimile of this, and I found a high-res scan somewhere on the internet. And I built this stage to do the reading and build a curtain, and then, presented it and read the cards and explained the story of Carly Schneemann, how she went and how she thought about this reading. She didn't call it performance, she called it reading. I think. And this is the last card that Carly Schneemann read in that June of 1977 at the Apple. So 7 years of working as a freelance graphic designer. It's in this map, basically, that I tried to do a few days ago in preparation for this talk. I'm not sure how to comment on it. There is a lot of collaborators and there is a lot of clients, and a lot of this collaboration still continues till today, which I'm very grateful for. And the last project I want to talk about, it's a bit of my reality behind how I was able to study here and also work as a freelance graphic designer. And I'm also following up a little bit on Terezi's talk, because next to all of this, I also had a side job of working in the kitchen. And while I was at the Werkplaats, I wrote a publication about it in 2022 that was called Leak on Life in the Kitchen, Balancing a Job and a Side Job. And this is how I was selling the publication at the New York Art Book Fair that we went to with the Werkplaats in 2022. So it came together with Leek the Vegetable. And it was a 3-chapter long publication. And the first chapter talked about how I worked in different restaurant establishments throughout the years. And it was recounting the ups and downs of working in a kitchen and being a graphic designer and not knowing when is a good time to resign, and how do you know when you can resign, and how do you know, when you can just sustain yourself from a freelance graphic design practice that's often so precarious. This is how it looked like inside. So it also had a lot of graphs from comparison of graphic design and working in the kitchen. And then it had a collection of screenshots from various memes and images and news articles. I also have a slide of the graphs that I made from 2018. Since I started working as a freelance graphic designer until 2023, I don't have a graph from 2024. Sorry about that. But I think I was trying to justify for myself and find reasons and see it in the numbers. Like, okay, now, it's getting smaller and I could quit, but it actually didn't reflect in the graphs. So it was very hard to know when to do it. And then, after 9 years of working in different kitchens, I gave my 1 month quitting notice on 21st of September, 2024. And thank you. And then I finished at the end of October. And it was a very long process of deciding. And it was not easy. And I think maybe for next publication, I keep the details of it. And I maybe once and with this image, because last year was perhaps somehow a year of changes. I stopped the restaurant work and I got a new studio space that I'm sharing with my classmate from the Werkplaats, Oriol Kabarokas. And it's located in a former hospital building that has more than 100 artist studios. And I think really having a bigger studio space with a very good contract in the city changes how I act and how I feel and project my practice in the space. And I'm also very excited to be in the new self-organized community that is quite active. We have a residency program, we have a gallery space, we do open studios once a year, and there is also an exhibition opening tomorrow night. So if you want to come, it's at the Puntweg, and I'm also going to be showing one work. Thank you.